Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I create a blockout of a 3D character in ZBrush, and I'm going to be using Crazy Jayce from season 2 of Arcane. So yeah, let's go. So to start off a project, you can either create your own base mesh or just take the ZBrush one or use one that you've paid for online or just found online. It just makes the workflow easier. To add reference images like this that don't move around to your ZBrush, you just have to come up here to texture, click texture here, and then import. And then you're gonna select whatever your, it's not gonna come up in my recording unfortunately, but select whichever image you have, and then it'll appear here. And when you click on it, you can press this button to add it or remove it from your spotlight. Let me just add a random texture actually, just to show you. So yeah, it'll do this, and then you're gonna be like, what the hell, where's everything gone? So you can move it around with left click. You can scale it up and down with this symbol here. It's a bit janky, but trust me, it'll work. If you have multiple images as well, you can press this button here, which basically kind of tiles them along the side, but I don't want that right now. And yeah, to remove it, just press that one. So when you want to come out of the spotlight mode, you just press Z, and then you'll be able to use your thing. Another thing that might come up is you'll be in spotlight mode when you're actually going to draw, so to turn that off you have to go to brush, go to samples, and then turn off spotlight projection. So this will be on automatically, and you're just gonna have to turn it off like that. Cool, let's get started. So when you're blocking out things on a human mesh, one of the best tools to use is the extract tool. So for clothes, for pieces of armor that follow the curvature of the body, for these kind of things here, the wraps that go around, it's really good for that. So I'm just going to teach you step by step how to do that. First off, you're going to hold control, maybe with symmetry on, maybe not, but for now I'm going to keep it on just to make it a bit easier because I'm going to make his little coat. So just gonna mask all the parts that would be covered by the coat like that by holding control and dragging, and then I'm gonna remove the hands obviously. Cool, and then we're gonna go to geometry, not geometry, we're gonna go to subtool, we're gonna go all the way down, we're gonna go to extract, we're gonna click this extract button and see what it does. Cool, so shows you what the topology that's going to be extracted, but I kind of want it to be a bit thinner, so I'm just going to turn it to maybe that. Yeah, that's fine. And I'm going to click accept to confirm it as a subtool. And there you go. Now you have kind of janky piece of clothing, but we can manipulate it. So the second thing I want you to do after you've confirmed your topology, so this will be a new subtool. So here's the original one, here's the second one. If I press Shift F, you can see that the thickness is there and it's set to another polygroup. It's kind of hard to see actually, but if we hold Control and Shift, we can click on the outer polygroup like that. So we're going to go to geometry, we're going to go to modify topology, and then we're going to go to delete hidden. So this is why I have delete hidden right there on my configuration, because I use it all the time. It's just really useful for managing your topology and deleting things and keeping it all fast and clean, so I'd recommend you put it there. So yeah, now we can move it around. So we're going to use the move tool. So it kind of comes up a bit and swoops down like this. So I'm gonna just stretch it out a bit like that. It's okay because we're going to remesh it. And maybe inflate it a tiny bit. So you can find the inflation deformation under the deformation tab and inflate. Put that there because I use it all the time again. And to see back faces, there's so many little buttons that I always forget I just have here, and I can't remember where it goes. Display properties? Yeah, so you go to display properties and double, so you can see the back faces. Now we're just going to remesh it so it's a nice low poly count, nice and manageable. I feel like that's a little too low. Let's turn it up a bit. Oh, wait for it to load. Watch it crash now. Awesome, okay. So it came out a tiny bit weird, but yeah, this is the main way you're going to block out all of the main features of your character. So keep it really simple, keep the topology really low. Like even this is a bit... actually no, this density is fine. But you know, so you can move it in really big ways just to fit the anatomy of your character. So from here on I'm going to talk about some of the tools that I use to manipulate the geometry just to make a good base mesh. In this section I'm going to talk about the dynamics and the Cloth Transpose cloth tool, just there. Yeah, so when you mask things off in your mesh and you use this tool, this transpose tool, it manipulates the mesh as if it were a piece of cloth, so it doesn't stretch or condense the mesh, it just acts as though it's a piece of clothing, which is awesome. So another thing you can do on top of it is, just like I did there, I turned on dynamics and turned the collision inflation to quite low, and it's not really working the way I intended it to here, but just a demo, so it's okay. So yeah, can you see it's interacting with the meshes that are visible, so you can create some cool clothing with it. Here's a better example of it working. So can you see it's not intersecting with the leg when you squish it, and it's creating some nice folds without you having to do anything. And here's a nice example of me using the extract tool again for something that's a bit more hard surface. So to create straps using the curve strap snap brush, it's a bit of a mouthful, you want to have a good base mesh to work off of, so I have extracted a t-shirt here, so this could work. I might just do the body just in case. So what you want to do is you want to get your base mesh, so this is just the body. Oh god, sorry. Sorry Jayce, just exposed you a bit. And then you're going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to turn symmetry off and delete all the higher subdivision levels, so I'm going to go do that by going to geometry, delete higher. So now I just have base mesh here. And with curve strap snap selected, I'm gonna click and drag and then hold shift and then drag it outside of the mesh like that. So if I just drag it normally, it's gonna do that. If I drag it out of the mesh, it's gonna do that. If I drag it, hold shift and then keep it going, it's gonna do that. And from there you'll be able to manipulate it all you want as a curve, but the easiest way to manipulate it, in my opinion, is just to click on the mesh anywhere to get rid of the curve stroke. Bing, and then you can drag it out with the move tool. But obviously, we also still have this secondary mesh underneath, so automatically your strap is going to be selected and any mesh underneath is going to be masked, but they are also polygrouped, so that's good for us. So we can hold Control and Shift and click to separate it, and then we can go to Modify Topology and once again the beautiful Delete Hidden button, boom, and now we just have a strap on its own. And if you want to make it easier to manipulate, a rule of thumb for the majority of base meshes is that for things like this, clothing, you want them to be a plane, basically. So a way to do that is to go to polygroups. If it hasn't already gotten a separated polygroup here, you want to go to polygroups and go to, where is it? Group by normals. So what this does is it calculates the angle between two faces, and it decides whether it wants to polygroup the sides between them. So now you have this mesh here that you can click with Control Shift, like we did with the t-shirt, and you can go to the wonderful delete hidden button once again. I'm just going to use this one for now because I don't want to search for it again. And yeah, there you go. Now you can just use Dynamic Subdivide. So if you go to Geometry, Dynamic Subdiv, and click Dynamic, it's gonna look like a little centipede crawling around him, but you can turn off Smooth Subdiv and turn on Thickness. Yeah, now you have fake thickness, so you can manipulate the mesh, turn off Dynamic, and it's still a plane. So you can manipulate it all you want, and you won't be adjusting the distance or the width of the strap. So in this section I'm going to show you how I block out the hair. I use a tool called the Curved Tube Snap tool, and basically it just snaps to whatever mesh it's on. And you can change the settings of the stroke so that it looks like a piece of hair. So what I'm doing here is I'm just docking the stroke to my interface, so just by doing that. And I'm going into Curve, and I'm clicking Lock Start. I'll show you what that means later. And going into Curve Modifiers, Curve Fall Off, and I'm adjusting the fall off to make it look as though it's a piece of hair. So without any adjustment, it looks just like a tube. So if I click Size, this graph will influence how big or small the size of each section of the tube is. So can you see there? It looks like it's just like a tube that's getting thinner. So you can use this to create stylized hair, but for this I'm just going to block it out for the shape of the hair that I'll ultimately replace with hair cards later down the line. But I just like doing this because it's quite a fun workflow. So for blocking out the hair as well, you're going to want to have a little base. So that's what that kind of black head cap is. I just used extract again, like I covered in the first part of the video. I used extract on it and then I just Dynameshed it. And now I'm just putting the curves on over it. So it's really intuitive. When you draw one of the curves, you can adjust it, and as long as you press Lock Start in under Curve, the Curve drop-down menu, you can kind of move the curve along and it'll just stay where the root is. So yeah, I'm just gonna speed run this. Oh, and one of the nice things about this workflow is that each curve that you create has a separate polygroup, so you can use the move topological brush to basically move each of the strands individually if you don't like how the curve came out. And yeah, just like I'm showing there. And then this is me just filling it in black, I think. I also just took this opportunity to block in the facial hair as well. You do this by just picking any brush, usually the standard brush, and turning off the Z add and turning on RGB. In this clip I've extracted the foot, and instead of just ZRemeshing it because the toes were kind of a bit weird, I just Dynameshed it together so it became one solid mesh, and then I polygrouped everything that I wanted to be different polygroups and kind of be influenced by the ZRemesh, just to make the boot basically. Here I'm just appending a primitive to act as the metal ring that's on his shoulder pauldron thingy-mabob. And yeah, you can use the primitives in ZBrush for a lot of stuff. Here as well I'm just using ZModeller, which is essentially a brush that acts as like a hard surface tool. And I'm using the split function to split the vertices into a circle, and then I'm just Q-meshing it in. So for the little lever thing on his leg, I used, because it's more of an organic shape, I used Dynamesh, and I just ZRemeshed it from there instead of just polymodeling it. And here I'm just using ZModeller again to extract the faces as opposed to using the extract button. Here I'm using an IMM brush built in with ZBrush. I try to use it as much as I can for simple shapes that already exist, like that. I'm just going to cover this in a bit more detail. So to make the cuts in his tattered clothing, you just hold Control and Shift, and usually it's the select rectangle tool, so that just means you can select polygons and hide other faces, but for this you can hold it, go into the top left, click it, and then click Slice Curve. So all of these do different things, but this one, if you see, makes different polygroups, which is cool. So there's definitely a better way to do this, but I'm just gonna do it this way because it works. So yeah, you just slice through. I'm just looking at the negative here as well, so trying to make some nice jagged edges. And it's fine because I'll manipulate it later again. So yeah, should look like contemporary art piece. And then you Control Shift again, click here, then click Select Rectangle, and then you can, by holding Control and Shift, you can select polygroups. So you can basically hide these ones. So if you click one that you don't want, and then click and drag, it reverses it, and now every single time you click a polygroup, it'll disappear. So I'm gonna click all of these. Cool. Nice and tattered. And then we're just gonna delete hidden, my favorite. Delete hidden. And then we're going to remesh it again. So you don't have to keep groups. It's just gonna be a trial and error. Let's see what happens. It might break. Awesome. So now you have little cuts here with nice topology, and you can manipulate it to make it look a bit more real. So yeah, that's how you use the clip curve. What's it called? Clip curve tool. Or slice curve, sorry. Slice curve tool. And then just make it look nice and natural. And remesh it again if you need to. So for this last part, I'm just colouring the mesh. I do this by pressing Fill Object whilst I have the desired colour selected. And for a base mesh, this is really good just to visualise what the shapes will look like and how the colours kind of harmonise on the model. And I'm also going to add a bit of kind of blush and lip colour and stuff. And finally, I'm creating the small little details with the straps. Just making them go over those little braces. And yeah, that wraps up the blockout for Jayce. So I'm planning on making this the first part in a several part series that covers the entire character creation process. So if you found this video useful at all and you want to tune into the next ones, please like and subscribe. It'd help me a lot, and I'll see you next time.